Hey guys, my name is Ozzy and today I'm gonna show you guys on how to create the sport badge logo design using Inkscape. I'm gonna show you guys on how to create the badge, the text, and the highlights and the shadow as well. So let's get into it. So here we are in Inkscape. So first of all, we want to create an oval. So with this ellipse, ellipse tool, just press E to have it, and it's gonna create an ellipse like this, an oval, and I'm just gonna set it into a black color and the opacity into 50 pixels like that, and make sure the size is set into 100 pixels on width and 50 pixels on height. So it's looking pretty small. I'm just gonna hold Control and roll up our mouse wheel, and right now we have this kind of object. So the first thing that we need to do is duplicate that. Control plus D to have duplications, and set that into a red color, and make sure it's set on the bottom like that, and go to the pad effects and just add a offset pad effects. There we go, and make sure the unit is set to pixels, and the offset, I think it's 5 pixels. There we go, 5 pixels is enough. So go to the pad, object to pad to finalize the pad effects. And now I'm just gonna duplicate this again, right click it, go to duplicate, and just set that into a blue color or green color for a greater contrast. I think blue is more contrast. And add another pad effects, which is the offset pad effects again. And the units is set to pixels once again, and this time the offset is minus 1.5 or just minus 5. Yeah, minus 5 is great. The pad, object to pad like that. And right now the next thing that we need to do is to have our text, which is with this text tool. Press D to have it, and the text, I'm just gonna type helm, which is short for helmets, and it's all in caps. And make sure everything is set to 0, and the font that we are going to use is called Ephogria. And my suggestion is that you use a font that is not too thick, as well as it's really greater in height rather than its width. So I think Ephogria is a great choice. And I'm just gonna select this green oval, and whatever the width on this green oval, I'm just gonna press Control plus C to copy the size of it, and make sure you turn on the lock this time. And with the width, I'm just gonna press Control plus A plus delete and Control plus V to paste that, and press Enter to have the width set the same as this oval. And I'm just gonna select this text, black text, helm text, hold Shift, click on this oval over here. I'm just gonna align it on the vertical and horizontal axis like that. And then I'm just gonna go to the pad, object to pad, ungroup it, and just deselect everything, and make sure on this H letter selected, just right click and go to copy, and we're just gonna create a random rectangle in size and its width like this, and make sure it's the color set to yellow so we have greater contrast of everything, and go to edit, paste size, paste width. So the width is just the same as this H letter, we've just copied, and hold Shift and click on this H letter, and make sure the alignment is set to vertical and horizontal axis like that. And I'm just gonna do the same thing with E, and just gonna right click it, go to copy, or just press Ctrl C to copy the size, basically everything, the style of this E letter. And I'm just gonna select this yellow object and press Ctrl D to duplicate that, go to edit, paste size, paste width, and hold Shift, click on this E letter, and make sure the alignment set to vertical axis. And just gonna do the same thing with this L letter, and I'm just gonna fast forward it because it's just a tedious process. Alright, it's all set and done on this rectangle, and make sure you select all of this rectangle, Alt Shift and click all of them, and you will see that the fill is yellow. You know that it is all selected, and make sure all of this rectangle is overlap with this overlap in height with green object behind it, which is the oval object. I'm just gonna hold Shift and just drag out this arrow like this. There you go. Make sure it's all overlap, and go to the path union to have a unification of everything like that. And now I'm just gonna select, I'm just gonna select this yellow rectangle once again, and hold Alt and click on the green object behind it. You'll know it by this fill status once again, and you're just gonna make it to the top and hold Shift, click on a bunch of this yellow rectangle, go to the path intersections, and we have this object over here that we can work with. I'm just gonna change the color into green, and make sure it's on the bottom of everything on the text. And right now, hold Shift and click all of this letter over here, and hold Control and drag it down like that, and select that. Just drag it down with left clicking it, and you'll see that we have this kind of highlights that you can work with. And the thing that we want to do is match this perspective or this object and morph it into this each of these highlights. So that's what we want. And with this edge letter selected, I'm just gonna go to path effects and add a perspective path effects instead of offsets. We're gonna use perspective envelope path effects, and the type is set into envelope deformations. And on this nodes tool over here, I will see that is two type of node, which is the gray one over here, and the white one. And we want the white one to actually work with rather than this gray one, because gray one is just an ordinary nodes. It's control every individual of the shape. So let's, with this selected, make sure you turn on the snapping, and it's turn on the snap to paths and snap to custom nodes, and just gonna snap it over here, and as well as on the bottom one on the right side. And with this one selected, I'm just hold Control and drag it to up, and with this one as well to the upper side of it, and yep, like that. And make sure you have this kind of shape before we turn that into a path. So go to the path, object to path, and the next thing that you need to do is edit this nodes tool and select every nodes on the top one, hold Control and drag it up, as well as on the bottom one, select everything, just drag it down like that. So the next thing that we want to do is select this highlight, this green highlight looking, Control+D to duplicate it, hold Shift and click on the black object, go to the path intersection, and we have this edge morph letter that I talked about before, that I mentioned before. So yeah, we're gonna set everything the same as this one. So with its E letter selected, just add a perspective select envelope, and the type into envelope deformation once again. And with the nodes tool, press N to have it. Just gonna snap it here on this corner, and lastly on this one, and we have that. And go to path, object to path, and with its top selected, just overlap it just like before. And just with this green object selected, Control+D to duplicate that, hold Shift and click on this E letter, go to path intersections, and we have this E once again. And I'm just gonna fast forward everything because it's just a boring and tedious process. So yeah. So it's all set and done with the text. And with this green object selected, just delete that because we don't really need it. And we have this all text have been morphed into something that we want before. And just gonna select everything, every of this letter, go to the path union to unify them together, and just select everything and just set opacity into 100% and change the text over here as well as the border. Hold shift, click on the border behind it, and the color is just gonna set it into blue color like that, and just big oval behind the text, I'm just gonna set that into 10% gray, so it's pretty good looking. And the last thing that we need to do is add a highlight as well as a shadow behind it. So to add highlight, I'm just gonna create a random rectangle and make sure the rectangle is greater, is more width, more height, greater in height rather than the actual logo itself. Like this, I'm just gonna change that into red color, opacity 50% once again, like that, and just Control+D to duplicate that. Hold Control and drag it to the right, and hold Shift. Just make it slimmer, like that. And with both selected, and you make sure you select both of it like that. Go to the path union, and just gonna select it once again and rotate it 1, 2. Make sure you hold Control 2 times on the clockwise. Hold Shift and click on the actual logo, and make sure the alignment set to horizontal and vertical axis like that, and just Control+D to duplicate that, set that into a green color. I'm just gonna turn off the snapping because it will get in the way. Hold Control, drag it to the left like this. There you go. And I'm just gonna select this border behind it. Control+D to duplicate that. Hold Shift, click on this this red object, go to the path intersection, and with this gray oval, Control+D, hold Shift and click on this green object, go to the path intersections, and with this red selected, with this red object selected, I'm just gonna lower that 2 steps behind this this gray oval. I'm just gonna select both of it with this green object as well, set that into a white color, and the opacity into 30 pixels. And yeah, the highlight is done. And the next thing is to have our shadow. So make sure you select this blue border behind it. And again, look at the status. It's blue. And Control+D to duplicate that, set it to black color. I'm just gonna hold Control and drag it a little bit to the right. Hold Control, still hold Control, and drag it to the bottom little bit as well. And I'm just gonna lower that to the bottom, and you'll see that it creates a little bit of a shadow, and I think it's pretty much good. And you'll see it creates a little bit of shadow like this, and just gonna select that, set that into black color, and just the blur is set to 15 pixels, as well the opacity into 30 pixels like that. And I'm just gonna select all of them, Control+G to group everything, and yeah, our logo is done. So that's how you create the sports badge logo design using Inkscape. I hope you learned something new on this tutorial, and don't forget to drop any suggestion for future videos. And as always, thank you for your time.